Welcome. It's good to be back with everybody, back with family. It's good to see everybody after, feels like what, 10 years, about 18 months, I guess. So it's good to see you again. For those of you that don't know me, Shaun Peterson. I am the Executive Vice President and Chief Legal Officer for Buckeye Dealership Consulting, but most of you knew me from a former life. Let me introduce our panelists by name, and then we'll have each of them kind of give you a little bit of history, what they do, and we'll kind of jump into our panel here. Let's start with Luke. You all know Luke. Say hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Chris
Martin, and I'm a lease year, pay here dealer in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Jason Gosnell, I'm head of sales for Buckeye Dealership Consulting. We do reinsurance management and provide the ancillary products that go along with that.
And Mark Burkholder, president of, there we go. Mark Burkholder, president of Auto Dealer Services Group with Peachtree Planning in Birmingham, Alabama.
So I want to set up our panel discussion by recounting a little bit of an experience that we had several years ago. A good friend of mine, many of you know who this is, dealer in Georgia, passed away very unexpectedly. And the aftermath of that proved to be a challenge because there wasn't really a succession plan in place, right? It was a little bit of a work to navigate through all of the legal issues between family members and what are we going to do with the dealership and how are we going to transfer things and et cetera, et cetera. So what we thought was a good idea is to kind of put together a panel that can address some of those issues and talk about some of the tools that are available to help you avoid some of those kind of situations. Because at some point in time, everybody's going to get out of the game, right? Whether you're getting out voluntarily or hopefully not in a pine box like my friend here. So that's the issue that Mark brought to the table. Mark and I met about, 3-4 years ago. And he said, hey, I think there's this need for education on succession planning, estate planning, financial advice, those sorts of things. So Mark, you work with independent dealers all across the country. Why don't you kind of just walk through what do you see as you're starting to work with these clients, and what do they have in place, what don't they have in place, what are some of the things that you see as you start your journey with them? So something for everybody to think about. How many of you are first generation dealers? How many are second generation dealers? How many of you have if you're first generation, have somebody in mind that may become a successor in the second generation? Or how many of you, Frankie, good to see him over there, man. How many of you have ideas of what your succession may look like? Just generally, vaguely, that sort of stuff. How many of you have no idea what we're talking about? What? Let me start thinking about this stuff. How many of you, don't raise your hand on this one, this is a personal question, but it's just something to think about. How many of you have a last will and testament? How many of you have trust agreements? How many of you have joint checking accounts with, so you don't have to answer these questions, joint checking accounts where somebody can get in and take care of things in the event of your incapacitation? How many power of attorneys? How important is the power of attorney? Talk through what that may look like in a dealership.
You know, we looked at what's going to go to each kid, what's going to go to the family, and you know, we use life insurance as a form of succession planning. It's a great way to pass money in a state, and you can write off taxes doing that, gifting tax, and we use it to succession plan businesses tax-free. If it's structured correctly, it's powerful.
What are some of the Irs considerations as you're going through the succession planning as you're working with clients?
Well, coming up, you know, with the changing of administration, a lot of people don't realize the changes that are going to take place in January of this year. You have right now an $11.58 million exemption that you can pass freely, and if you have a will, it's portability, you can pass it to your wife, of about $23 million. In January, they're hoping to, looks like they're going to pass a law to get that down to anywhere between 3 and 5 million. 2.5, 3.5 to each person, you know, maybe even up to 7. So, you know, people in this room, you may lose $20 million of an exemption that you can pass. And so what that means to everyone sitting in here is your estate becomes more taxable. There are certain items you can do now using trust and different mechanisms to transfer without taxes. If you don't plan for it and you just kind of react to it, then there's a lot of tax that'll be due at a certain time.
So part of the things that you do, Mark, also involve business evaluation, right?
Yes.
So succession planning may not necessarily mean from one generation to the next, but perhaps your plan involves a sale at some point in time. So
Yes.
walk through with people some of the considerations as they're going through that process. Business evaluation, sale,
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
Yeah, I would tell people, if you're even have this in the next 5 to 10 years, 15 years, start to make plans for that. They're looking to get rid of the family business valuation discount, which is very big.
They meaning the IRS.
The new administration
Yeah.
and the IRS is getting ready to get rid of that. So what you can do is really go in and evaluate your business, determine a value on that, and then start to pass it to the next generation or succession planning it while still keeping control of it.
So one of the challenges that I hope everybody will or one of the homework assignments that I hope you all walk away from here is to start thinking about, some of the things that you have in place already. Hopefully you've got these legal documents because, again, we're all one heartbeat away, so to speak, right? So do you have those legal documents in place to protect you? But think about what your plan's going to be. You've got this great business that you've built, or you've got this great business that you're involved in. What happens to it? What do you want to see happen to it? And start considering put that plan together. So I know that we've got Chris and Luke up here because they've been through this, right? So both of them, second generation dealers. Oh yeah, Luke's third generation. He's not as young as he looks, folks. I'm just saying, okay? He's not as young as he looks. So Luke, you've been through this. You've multi-generational dealer now. What did succession look like from your side? What was the process and what lessons learned?
It was one of the most difficult processes, in my life, honestly. 5 years ago, 6 years ago, my dad had no plan in place, none. And there might be some second generation people sitting out here, and your father's still involved, or your mother. And I was in an interesting situation where it was my father and a stepmother, which makes it even more fun. And so we went through this process of trying to hammer it all out, and it's not fun talking about money. And you'd push a little bit, and they would push back. The buck would be passed to 3 months later. You'd get to a date, and finally, and I hope nobody in this room ever comes to this, but I was the one running the business, and I had to have a date. I said, I am quitting September 15th. I'm giving you all this time, but I'm done. And he didn't believe me. And about 2 weeks out, I said, well, I hadn't heard back from you, so I guess that's it. It's going to be, I wish you the best, but I'm going ahead and looking for another job. And it took to get to that for him to realize that I was serious. And so at that point, we had to reach out and go through the process. And the process at that point was tough. What got even harder, because we didn't know the exact process to put in place. I didn't know Mark at the time. If I did, that would have been a lot easier. But we had to kind of develop the process as we went, and it was difficult. Once we got everything signed, it was even more difficult. But we do have a process in place, and you have to push, and you have to make sure it's taken care of, because I was worried about my family. He was worried about his family, right? And so my advice is to not put it off. You need to do it right now, because you never know. Our friend was driving down the interstate and this happened. So that was my experience. Not fun.
So experience on the acquisition side of it.
Yep.
What lessons have you learned? I mean, you're not as young as you look, even though he looks like he's 12. I mean, a little older than that. You're still young, Buck.
Thank you.
But at some point in time, you've got an exit strategy, right? What lessons did you learn going through the acquisition side that will help you on your exit strategy?
Life insurance, that was one of the things we were talking about, and I will never be full owner of our company, so we use life insurance to if something happens to my dad, to buy out the rest of the company. And also, he's got life insurance on me because I'm the person who runs the business. And so if something happens to me, he has a way to wind down our business. The documents are in place. We're both signers on it. We would never fly on the same airplane together. There's all these type of things. We hardly ever ride in a car together just because you just never know what would happen. That was the biggest thing. And also, building different revenue streams inside my business, reinsurance and all these things has helped build another nest egg, so when we do decide to shut down, that we already have that in place in a retirement package within our dealerships.
Chris, you're a multi-generational dealer, worked with your dad, now have taken over. What lessons did you learn going through that process that you could pass on some nuggets of wisdom?
A lot of the same experiences that Luke has had. We kind of finalized our plan about 11 years ago, and it took us probably 5 years, as Luke described, of back and forth to get there. So as Luke said, I would not wait if it's imminent. Hopefully you've got a successful business and you want to protect everybody, so it's better to start now talking about it than wait. But there's a lot of things to deal with. And again, as Luke stated, I didn't have Mark to reach out to at that point either, but you've got great resources now through the association, and highly recommend it, because we reached out to our accountant, our attorney, all the people that we knew that could help kind of walk us through the process. But we were fortunate to have some good guidance, and fortunately, Dad didn't make me quit either.
Not yet.
It's coming, yeah.
So Luke mentioned reinsurance being a key integral part of plans moving forward, and an opportunity to help with succession planning moving forward. So let me shift to Jason a little bit here. Jason, just, how many of you have reinsurance? How many of you have no idea what reinsurance is? Anybody for that? Why don't you give just a brief 101? What the heck are we talking about? We throw out this term reinsurance.
Sure. I'll say that our topic today is why I'm in the position that I'm in today, doing reinsurance. Just briefly.
That better?
Yeah. Perfect. This one there. Unique perspective. I was a banker to auto dealers prior to my current position, and we cater to independent and buy here, pay here, lease here dealers across the country. And while there are so many things that make the auto business unique, one of the things that I saw firsthand is there is never a clear-cut exit strategy that necessarily leads to a large lump sum of money at the end of the career. Whether it be, you have debt on your portfolio or your inventory or your real estate, there's all kinds of different things. You don't have a generation or someone that's going to take over, a key employee. There's not the big business sale necessarily at the end. And that led me to the career that I'm in today. So reinsurance is a fantastic way to recognize new revenue sources possibly in your dealership that you may already be doing, or accounting for transactions that you may already be doing, but it could be a more advantageous way to account for that. And for so many of our clients, it ends up becoming a forced savings account over a long period of time. So if you think about it, just like an employee or whatnot, that has a 401k, this can be a fantastic forced savings account for a business owner. Right now, the IRS tax code says you can put $2.35 million per year in gross premium in there. So over a long period of time, it can lead to a lot of wealth and can be that nest egg, so you're not worried about the that exit strategy. And that's why we've partnered with Mark and his group with Peachtree, because that's a large source of assets over a period of time. And his team's expertise are there to help in managing that and kind of putting that plan together.
So how does a typical reinsurance transaction work for those that are new to it?
Yeah, fantastic. So the nice, easy, transaction would be, a dealer selling a service contract. Now, there's multiple different types of products that you can choose to reinsure. Anything that you may be able to earn a profit, that's what we would recommend you reinsure. But a typical dealer can sell a service contract, and instead of sending that money off to a third-party service contract provider and letting them take part in the profits, you, the dealer, can actually take part in the profit of that program. And then from there, it is subject to all the 831B tax code that's very advantageous for a dealer.
So 831B tax code, by the way, don't let that freak you out.
No.
It's kind of the captive insurance company code, so sounds cool, but it's really not that
It's
cool.
not much at all. But yeah, very much so. Then the idea, stop sending money to a third-party, insurance company. There's a reason why typically banks are the biggest buildings in every city. Insurance companies are usually the second biggest building. So this is a way for you to go ahead and find another source of revenue inside of your business to take part in the profits in.
And you've seen plenty of banks and insurance companies that sponsor sports arenas, right, Chuck? I mean, Chuck knows what I'm talking about. So, not even a courtesy laugh, Chuck, on that one? I mean, come on, it's bad. Tough crowd, I know. End of the day. So Jason, what kind of products, well, let me ask this, can you have more than one product in your insurance company?
Absolutely. So as a dealer, depending on what you may be retail, you may be buy here, pay here, you may be lease here, pay here. Every product can be customized based on your dealership and your needs. And then from there, a reinsurance company can accept risk of multiple types of products and actually from multiple types of dealers. So if you're a buy here, pay here dealer and you have a dealership and a finance company, you still can have one reinsurance company that can accept premium from those.
So what would some of the products for a buy here, pay here dealer be? And then same question on the retail side. What products should they consider reinsuring? And
Sure, great question. So for a retail dealer, service contracts a lot of times are low-hanging fruit. It's already something you're doing. Again, stop giving that money to a third party. You can offer to do your own warranty program. A lot of times now we're trying to create value in the consumer's eyes, stand behind the vehicle that we're selling and the recon that we did. Whether you want to do paint and fab, etch, tire wheel, whatever that may be on the retail side. For the buy here, pay here dealer, your own warranty program, if you're fixing the car and taking care of your consumer, not now to keep them on the road, it's advantageous. Put in writing what you will fix and what you won't fix. Memorialize that transaction. Collateral protection insurance. Stop begging your customer to go, pay a third-party insurance company. They can go on your collateral protection program, GAP. All those are all things that a buy here, pay here dealer could do.
and retail?
Oh, yeah, so retail again, yeah, service contract, warranty, VIN, etch, tire wheel, that sort of thing. Sure.
So let me start with Luke, and then I'll ask the same question to Chris. So Luke, what kind of products do you have in your reinsurance company, and what's kind of your strategy for growing your insurance company? And then third question, I know it's a lot, right? But how's it helped you with your profit margins?
So we started a reinsurance company to hide some money. I mean, number one, I mean, that's bad to say, but we were taking care of our customers. If they bought the car and 6 months later, something happened, 9 times out of 10 we were having to fix it anyway. So we started giving a warranty every time a customer purchases a car. They get a 12-month, 12,000-mile warranty, and we're able to, expense that from our dealership to our warranty company, and then our warranty company can pay for the repair. So that's a tax savings every time we sell the car. So the number one was warranty, and then as it developed, we started offering vehicle service contracts. So given a 12, and then presenting our customers to buy 24-month vehicle service contract or 36 months. And then we decided that we were seeing a lot of insurance companies, when our customers totaled our car, they just weren't paying what the car was worth. And so everybody knows there was a gap there. So we started selling gap to our customers, which were really insuring our loans. So we got into that with reinsurance. Now we do We do VSI. VSI, is that right? VSI, which is probably something I can't explain. And then we then we do PSI.
You want to phone a friend?
Well, I will. So PSI also. So everybody who buys cars at auction know that you can pay, one of those big auction companies to PSI your car, and then you can hope and pray that the car gets delivered soon enough. And when it gets delivered, that you can try to arbitrate back that condition that they were supposed to cover under PSI. Well, we decided to take that risk ourselves. So what we do is every time we purchase a car at the auction or wherever, we put our own PSI and we reinsure that money. So if we get it in with a bad transmission, well, we have PSI on that. So we just pull the money out of our reinsurance to fix that transmission. It's just a way to take the money out of the big people's, the big company hands and put it in our hands. And it's a way for us to take the risk and save money tax-wise and also make money in our reinsurance company. Is there a third question?
And then I'm sure there was. How does it help your profit margins?
Oh, so what we've seen penetration-wise in VSC and GAP, it's probably equating to an extra $15,000 to $20,000 on the bottom line each month, and it's a big deal. So it's helped a lot.
Chris?
We only provide a warranty for our customers. We put a 24/24 on all of our vehicles. But I really like what you've done with the 12/12 and then upselling them to the service contract and reinsuring it.
Do you want a pen? Do you want to write that
Yeah,
down?
if you don't mind. I've got a pen, I just don't have paper. But to Luke's point, the great thing one of the great things about the program is this is money that you are cutting into. If you're selling a service contract or putting a warranty on the car, you're paying somebody else. This way, you're paying a company that you own those proceeds. It's not going away, it's staying with you. You're reducing your taxable income, and you guys correct me on any of this if I'm wrong, you're reducing your taxable income for the dealership, and then the money that's going into the reinsurance company, you don't have to pay tax on that till you take the money out. And that's at a reduced capital gains rate.
Capital gains rate. You're taking it as a dividend, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, just something I wish we would have done a lot sooner than we did.
So Chris and I have talked about this for years and years and years and years, 10 years probably. And I think the first time he'd mentioned this to me, he's like, I wish we would have done this 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the comment that he made to me as we were preparing for this, I wish we would have done this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, it's just, again, I'm in my mind, I'm thinking about the number that we've written in checks to, service contract companies over the years, third party, somebody else, and at the same time, I've also watched the balance on a reinsurance company trust account build over the years, and I can do the multiplication on that as well. And I wish we'd have started a long time ago, or well before we did.
Mark?
Well, and one thing to go along with this is, since 1913 to today, we're in the fourth lowest tax environment we've ever been in, ever. History repeats itself. And if you look at whenever we're going to exit and to retire, you're looking for something that's going to be at a lower tax bracket, at a lower tax advantage. And that's part of the reason I teamed up is they're pulling it out not at ordinary income rates. You're pulling it out at half of that of capital gains rates. And there's a big advantage of that. And we look at, whenever we're making plans for people is no one can tell you what the tax rate's going to be when you go to retire. I can tell you with an educated guess it's likely going to be higher than where it is today. So if you can put money back in a tax advantaged manner and pull it out at a lower rate, you're going to win in the long run.
Yeah, and I'll clarify just what they're alluding to. So the IRS tax code, I mentioned 831B, it says a couple things. First off, it says that the company itself is taxed on the investment income of the entity, not the underwriting profit. So that means if you do make money on a service contract, it's not necessarily taxed until you choose to declare that as a dividend. Okay, so you do have the power there. Necessarily you can defer it to keep some of that wealth in there, and it could be used for future claims as well. And then the other thing they're alluding to is the fact that when it does come out, notice I use the word dividend, it is taxed at long-term capital gains rates as opposed to ordinary income rates. Most dealerships that we find throughout the country are set up as S corps or LLCs, which makes them pass-through entities, which is right now a higher tax rate than the long-term capital gains rate. So that's the specifics that everyone was alluding to.
So to circle this back to the issue that we started the panel discussion with, succession planning, how does reinsurance fit into the idea of planning for the future? So maybe Luke and Chris from a practical standpoint, and then you guys can, at the end of the table, can kind of close it up from a philosophical standpoint.
It allowed me to get into ownership of the company earlier because I had a company that my dad and I owned together that had already built up a significant cash value. So succession plan, it was already there. And I could also see if something were to happen down the road and I needed to buy out somebody else in my company, I could use that money to do so because it's been growing over the time I've owned the dealership, and the dealership is essentially funded for me. So that's how I would use it in succession plan. I might be not thinking about that properly, but I think that's the way I would do it.
We actually started our reinsurance company about a year after Dad and I figured out the succession piece of it. I've tried to look at it from day one as a retirement plan, but the great thing about it is that, and don't think I didn't ask, as COVID started in March of 19, or 20, if we need to borrow against this, we can. There's no penalty or issues there. If you want to pay off a building, buy a house, whatever, it just gives you some flexibility. But I've looked at it as retirement from the very beginning.
So Jason, what have you seen some of your clients do, and what advice might you give people and how they can use it for planning for the future?
So I think I would just encourage everyone to explore it. A lot of times people are scared to try something new. Reinsurance can very much be something that just fits into the fabric operationally of your day-to-day dealership life, whether it be selling a service contract or giving a warranty. A lot of times you're already doing that transaction. This would just be a more advantageous way to do so. And then when you get into the strategy itself, and this goes in why we partnered up with Mark, look, everyone has different needs, whether it be you're looking to buy a partner or everyone kind of had that, oh, wow moment during COVID. Having that kind of peace of mind that maybe you have several $100,000 or several $1 million in your reinsurance company to either, one, dividend out as income, right? I mean, we may need to replace some income at some point in time, or to loan out for expansion, growth, for funding a payroll, whatever that may be. Bottom line, the more assets that you and your organizations have, the more flexibility that you have when it comes time to do whatever it is the need may be.
I would say one thing that we learned is we always want to lower the tax rate, whatever that is. And I partnered, a client of mine in Houston, we're taking his long-term gains of his reinsurance company, we're pulling that out at capital gains rates, then it's called a modified endowment contract, using life insurance and pulling that out at zero. And so he's gone from ordinary income rates down to capital gain rates, down to pulling it out of zero, using a modified endowment contract with life insurance. So we've just kind of mitigated his tax expense all the way out to retirement, to where using the vehicle of reinsurance, then using a life insurance vehicle correctly, he's actually going to go into retirement with a zero adjusted gross income for the rest of his life. He'll pay his last tax at age 65, and he'll never pay another one.
Anybody want to sign up for that? Zero Uncle Sam liability?
So I think that's what all of us do up here. We try to, the tax rate's a variable. No one in here nor outside can tell you what the tax rate's going to be in the future. Try to create a constant. In your financial distribution, try to create a constant and remove a variable. And it's possible. People just don't know how to do it.
So we're up against the clock, and because we have a lawyer that's following us, nobody wants to get sued, right? We have time for just a couple of quick questions. Anybody want to throw anything at one of our panelists? Tim?
I just want to say,
question. What are yours, by the way?
I was trying to see if I had some numbers right here, but I don't. I can tell you this, Gap will hammer you up front. Yeah. And so if you're thinking about that, I would let your reinsurance company mature before you get into that process. You're paying yourself, so is it really hammering you? No, but you got to make sure you have, I guess think about any loss ratio, you've got to make sure you've got a good process in place of selling the product, number one. Because if you're only selling one warranty a month, it's not going to work, okay? You've got to make sure that you've got a good penetration rate and you build that base. Our Gap was charging off at 150%, Taylor, something to that effect maybe? It was high, okay? But the longer we've had it, those numbers have started to come down, and we're selling 70%. Our penetration rate is over 70% in our Gap, and so it's a long game. It is not I'm going to make money up front type of game, because that money's got to earn out. It's got to get bigger. So, our VSC is super low. You know, it's probably in the 30 to 40%, maybe somewhere range like that. Yeah, it's again, it's a long-term game. None of the things we're talking about is going to affect your business overnight. It's not going to. But we've had our reinsurance company for over 10 years now, and every month when that statement comes in, I just go, holy cow, what a great decision. I mean, every month.
So let's give these guys a hand, and if you have questions, come grab us against the hall.